Hi there, it is Stephanie with Project Vibrancy. How are you today? So I'm going to talk today in a way that's a little bit different than I usually do. I'm usually here with some tips and very practical advice, and I today wanted to talk a little bit about mindset, I guess, and the motivation really to eat well and to take the time to cook food at home. Why bother when everything is available in boxes and packages and takeout and restaurants? And as Americans, we have utterly, totally, and completely outsourced the preparation of our food, and sometimes that's great, but sometimes it's not. And so the way that I have really come to think about food and why it's worth it to me to take the time to prepare food for myself really sort of involved taking a little bit of a step outside of the typical American culture. I'm in the United States, I'm in Minnesota, and as a culture, Americans tend to be very pro or con, black or white, it's this or it's that. We're a very binary culture. And the way that we approach food kind of falls into that same paradigm, no surprise. But for a lot of Americans, it has come to be about indulgence or deprivation. And I can speak to it personally because it's absolutely the way that I have approached food my entire life. As a teenager, and I'm going to say as a teenager because I was emancipated. When my parents were in charge of what I was eating, then I ate very healthy food when I was growing up. You maybe have had the same experience, but then when I got to, learn how to drive and I had more freedom and I had money, I just thought that indulgence was totally the way to go. Why would you just not eat whatever basically crap you wanted to when you could? And of course, as a teenager, you can, and it doesn't really have a terrible impact on your health. And for me, it didn't have a terrible impact on my weight or anything. And so I was eating McDonald's and Burger King, Taco John's, because I was in Grand Forks, North Dakota, didn't really do Taco Bell, and just ate garbage basically all the time and thought it was the greatest thing in the world. And then I got to college and, I went to the University of Wisconsin in Madison, and it was beer and alcohol and just tons of basically debauchery and crappy food and lots of alcohol. And again, I just thought this was like the greatest thing in the whole world until spring break would come around, and then it was time to go on this incredibly restrictive diet. Oh my God, I'm going to be in a bathing suit in front of people, and then it would be about the most ridiculous deprivation ever. I mean, this is definitely disordered eating that was going on. It wasn't just me, it was sort of like everybody was doing it. This was the era of fat-free, and I would literally take myself down to 800 calories a day in preparation and then be working out and doing aerobics and, plus UW-Madison is a big campus, so I was walking several miles a day anyway. And drop this weight so that I could be on the beach in my bikini and feel great. And though I just would vacillate between those two poles. And what really started to come out of it was a real distrust of food and a distrust of myself around food. And that really sort of perpetuated itself through my early adult years. When I first started my blog, which was in 2006, it was not called Fresh Tart. It was called, this is a terrible name, it was called The Moderate Epicurean. And it was really an exploration, it was my attempt at an exploration of moderation, because I was caught between these two poles. I was either cooking out of Julia Child's cookbook, and it was all indulgence, all the butter, all the pastry, all the sugar, total indulgence, and then I would gain weight, and then I would go on an incredibly restrictive diet, and it was really, not that much fun. So it was either fun was indulgence, and sadness and boringness and no more socializing, no more eating in restaurants. That was the other end. And I knew this was insane. And I knew that there needed to be a middle. And I was reading at that point MFK Fisher and sort of starting to open my eyes to the idea of a more European attitude about eating, that there's balance, that it's, fine to have indulgences, but maybe not every day, not big, huge pieces. The idea of American portions, is insane in that context. And it was really fun for me to start to think about that, but I didn't quite have it down. I do not suggest that you go back and read those early blog posts because they're kind of terrible. But anyway, they were my attempt to sort of map it out. And what I see in retrospect that I was trying to do was I was trying to keep the indulgence, but to a lower level. So I was still really focused on the indulgence part, and I had not gotten to a place of thinking about nutrition and food the way that I do now. What got me there is I got sick, and I wouldn't wish that on anybody, and I wouldn't even wish it on myself. However, I'm very grateful that I did. It utterly changed the paradigm for me, and food became about nutrition and about healing. And even under that, so that's great. And that is probably where a lot of you are at, especially if you're following me and you're following, other people who are writing about the autoimmune protocol and about helping people figure out gut health and, talking about elimination diets and all of the things that we talk about here. But underneath that, and this is a much more esoteric conversation than I usually have with you guys, but underneath that is really discovering that food is about self-care and love, and about loving my miraculous body, being incredibly grateful for when it's healthy, because now I know what it's like when I'm not, and I don't want to go back to that place. So there is that motivation, but it really has come down to discovering this sense of really caring deeply for myself. And it's a stage of life thing for me, no question. I'm out of the active parenting role. My child is an adult. I'm not married right now, so I'm not, cooking for a family, and that takes a whole different mindset and a lot of energy, and I've done all of that. So I'm primarily cooking for myself and for friends right now, and so I do have the luxury of sort of thinking about these things, but that has really been the game changer for me. Food and the nutrients that I put into my body is about taking loving care of myself. Overindulging and underindulging, deprivation, are really acts of punishment, I've come to see. And when I feel the urge to wildly overindulge, it's a clue for me now that there's something else going on in my life that I want to escape from and that I want to kind of check out. And overindulgence is a lot about checking out, and deprivation is a lot about punishment. And so when you can see that and try to choose the middle, the not American, kind of third option, fourth and fifth and sixth options, in fact, that's really where things started to change for me. And so I understand without question busyness and needing a system, and it is exactly why I created Project Vibrancy Meals, which are the meal plans that I write and is a product that I offer, because I understand that people need to plug into the system. And that system that I created is all based on whole food. It's all based on really nutrient density. It works for people who are following the autoimmune protocol and really trying to manage very difficult health issues. However, it's still effort. It still requires, even though I provide the shopping list and I, write it out in so much detail that, I really want people to not be wasting food. People make back the money that it costs to buy the meal plan just in saving money on food. So I care about those things, and those things are in the meal plan. But it still takes effort to make Project Vibrancy Meals. You're still cooking, and that effort really comes the easiest if it comes from a place of really caring for yourself and your body, and as an act of love toward yourself. So that's a little wooier than I usually get here. I tend to just talk about tips, but I've had a couple of really interesting conversations around this. I also work with coaching clients, and I see the struggle to make the commitment to even, a little bit of time of cooking every day, which I get because life is crazy. But it really only starts to happen in a significant way if it really does come from a place of love for yourself. And it's often easier for us to do it for the people that we love. We always take care of other people before we take care of ourselves. But if it also comes from a place for yourself, I find that it falls into place a lot easier. Gets to be a lot more fun too. And anyway, I'd love to know what you think about that. I'm sure you have thoughts on that. It's a little controversial to say. But thinking about overindulgence and deprivation as, as really escape and managing stress and even punishing yourself, that was a real game changer for me. It really opened my eyes to some of the things that I've been doing. And when I feel those urges, then that's a clue for me. So it's good info. Now I actually welcome it and see it as good information. So anyway, that's all I'm going to say today. Just wanted to share that with you. I hope you have a great day. It is absolutely stunningly gorgeous in Minnesota today. So I am going to go for a bike ride and do some riding. I have a blog post coming out tonight. I also posted one last night, and I'll put the link to that one below. It's a lovely halibut and greens recipe. And then tonight I'm going to be posting the crispy chicken and peach and corn and arugula salad that I put on Instagram earlier this week, and it was just such a good salad. I decided I needed to share it with you guys. It's like peak summer salad. So check Fresh Tart for both of those recipes. And my Instagram is stephanie.a.meyer. Always posting stuff there too. So, all right, you guys, take care, and let me know if you have questions. I'll be back next week. Bye.